Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone.
Chased down by Beal in the corner for three, gets fouled and hits.
Welcome to DC.
Walker tied him out.
You know where you're at, the USA cap. You're taking it slightly, I'm taking it slightly. Now how you gon' act on you gon' be right back. When we gon' be right here, we gon' be right here. We ain't going nowhere. Welcome to DC.
What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nazi with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And previously, you guys saw my three-part series where I broke down the my personal top three options for the Washington Commanders at pick number 11 in the first round of the 2022 NFL Draft, which should be going on the week when you guys will be seeing this video. But now I want to dive into some options for the Washington Commanders after the first round, in particular in the second round. Because as you guys could kind of guess by the title, I don't think the pick 11 selection is going to be the most crucial selection for the Washington Commanders in this draft. I think the second round selection will be the most important for several reasons, which I'll get to soon. But before getting into that, I do want to say, even though it's been about 2.5 to 3 weeks since the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, I do want to continue to send out my prayers and condolences to his family. I was given the opportunity to attend his vigil tonight, and it was really powerful to just see the entire DMV community rally around Dwayne Haskins and his family, and see some of the Commanders players, the owner, the president, Jason Wright, who was really courteous throughout the proceedings. It was really powerful. But yeah, continued prayers to him. Only 24 years old, and yeah, my heart breaks for his family and his friends and what they have to deal with. But with that being said, again, it's always hard to transition off of these things, but I'll try my best diving into the round 2 options for the Washington Commanders in the NFL Draft, which is coming up very, very soon. So why is the round 2 selection, in my opinion, the most important for the Washington Commanders? So again, several reasons. First off, the context, right? The first round is relatively easy to get, right? Especially when you get a top 10, top 15 draft pick, right? It's really in the second round when things start to get tougher in terms of evaluating talent, evaluating guys that you think are best fits for your football team. So there's that, right? The second thing, this year, the Washington Commanders do not have a third round pick. So the second round pick will be their last selection for a long time. They're going to have a long wait until their turn again at pick number 113 in the fourth round. So given that there is no third round selection because of the Carson Wentz trade, right? Because the Washington Commanders traded away this year's third round pick and next year's third round pick, which is likely going to be a second round pick if all things go accordingly with Carson Wentz and him having a full bill of health. Because of that trade, the Washington Commanders do not have a third round pick this year. So the second round pick will be even more important because of the fact that Commanders, once again, will have a long wait in between picks. The third thing I want to get to as well is that scouts, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but scouts have constantly, time and time again, said that this draft is not super top heavy, but the real value lies in the second, third, fourth rounds, right? That's where the real value lies. There isn't like a consensus top 5, top 10 picks that, you know, would be superstars in any draft right now. Again, not really top heavy, so the second round, it drives even more importance given that fact, right? So those are 3 reasons, right? The fourth reason, and arguably the biggest reason why I think the second round selection will be the most crucial for the Washington Commanders, is the history of second round selections, especially recent history over the last 5-6 years of second round selections for this organization. Because the organization has definitely not made its mark in the second round over the last 5 or 6 years. 2016, we had Sua Cravens, who a lot of people thought had the talent to be a good safety, if not linebacker for us. Didn't work out. Ryan Anderson was a linebacker, moved to defensive end. Didn't really work out from my Alabama Crimson Tide. You also had Darius Geis in 2018. Big yikes, right? He had all the talent in the world, but he had a huge injury history. Also had huge off the field issues as well. And 2019, 2020, we did not have a second round pick because of the Montez Sweat trade. And then 2021, drafted Sam Cosmi, who is pretty talented. I think will be a solid right tackle for us, but was pretty injured last year, right? So we only got to see spurts of greatness out of him. But I do, again, expect to see more out of him. But that doesn't change the fact that the second round has not been great for the the Redskins and the Washington football team and now the Washington Commanders. But this year, hopefully we can build on the 2021 sort of momentum in terms of drafting a pretty good player in the second round, even though a lot of people thought it was a pretty raw offensive tackle prospect at that time. Sort of build on that and get another good player to come in here with our second selection. And with that being said, I want to get into my 5 realistic prospects for the Washington Commanders in round 2. And when I say realistic, I mean realistic. I was considering a Jahan Dotson in my ranking. I was considering some other guys as well, Daxton Hill. But I think all those guys will be drafted in the first round. And if you look at mock drafts throughout various sources, they'll probably tell you the same thing. So given that, I'm going to get into my top 5 realistic prospects for the Washington Commanders in round 2. Starting with number 5, I got to go with my Alabama Crimson Tide guy, even though I'm putting bias aside here. And John Mechie III. Right? The Washington Commanders already brought him in for a top 30 visit, so it sort of shows you that the team already has interest in him. He's a true junior, only 21 years old, definitely has some elite wide receiver teammates in the past, right? But he still made a name for himself for Alabama. He has enough size at 6 feet, 187 pounds. He probably will build on that frame over the next couple of years. He knows how to run clean routes at crisp angles, is solid at tracking the ball through the air. Still needs to improve a little bit, getting in and out of his breaks, but he has the talent. He has a lot of things that you want out of a wide receiver too. He also has great quickness on the field, and with a lot of these wide receiver prospects, oftentimes they have all these athletic tools, they have all these traits, but they never put it on the field. But that was not the case for John Mechie, even in that stacked Alabama receiving room. He had 96 catches for 1,142 yards, 8 touchdowns as well, was 8th in the country in catches. So was definitely hauling in a lot of passes from Bryce Young, future first-round pick next year if all things go according to plan. The biggest concern, though, with John Mechie III, which you guys might know, is his injury, his major injury that he sustained in December in the SEC Championship game, if I'm not mistaken. He tore his ACL, which is kind of ironic because Jameson Williams also tore his ACL just a couple weeks later in the National Championship game, and he's someone who I rank number 2 in terms of my top 3 options for the Commanders at pick 11 in the first round. But John Mechie sustained the injury, torn ACL December, but reportedly will be cleared by June and actually should be ready to go by NFL training camp. So given that information, I got to put him in my top 5 here at number 5. And I definitely think he would be a solid round 2 selection for the Washington Commanders. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that they already visited him, or he already visited them in Ashburn, right? So, yeah. Sorry, I almost dropped my microphone there. Number 4, George Pickens, the wide receiver from Georgia. There's been a lot of buzz around Pickens as potentially the best wide receiver to come out of this draft maybe 2-3 years down the line. Whether it be Matt Miller of ESPN, formerly of Bleacher Report, or Rico from Street Score is a very good friend of the channel. And to be honest, I kind of understand why. Great size, 6'3", 195. He probably needs to pack on a little bit more weight on that frame, but very solid speed for his size. He ran a 4.47 40-yard time at the Combine, I believe, with a 125-inch broad jump, top 25 overall recruit coming out of high school. Is great on the outside, has great ball skills, great contested catch abilities. Just, again, needs to bulk up his frame and would be a very solid wide receiver too for us behind Terry McLaurin. I think the biggest issue with him, much like John Mechie, is his injury history, right? He wasn't able to really produce much on the field, at least relative to the other top wide receiver prospects in this draft class. But again, he has all the tools. I do think, though, what he provided the Georgia Bulldogs in the tail end of the 2021 season, especially in the National Championship game where he had that long catch, I believe it was for like 52, 53 yards. And, you know, he was a nightmare for opposing defenses. I think that really shows you what he was coming out of high school, what he can be for the Washington Commanders. And with that being said, I think he's definitely worthy of being at least considered for the number 47 pick for the Washington Commanders in round 2. So that's my number 4 guy. My number 3 guy, who I think guys know I have a man crush on this man's, bro. Like, based off of the Twitter, Instagram, like how much I promoted this guy in terms of his ability and also what he could bring to the table for the Washington Commanders. Is Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa State. In my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of scouts out there, the number one running back coming out of this draft class. The Washington Commanders already brought him in for a top 30 visit, and I'll just leave this comparison up on the channel again, much like I posted on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. Jonathan Taylor, Midwest prospect, obviously he came from Wisconsin, 21 touchdowns in his last year of college, 37 in his last two, 5'10", 226, 4.39 40-yard time, and 123-inch broad jump. Now Breece Hall, another Midwest prospect coming from Iowa State, 20 touchdowns in his last year of college, 41 in his last two, 5'11", 217, 4.39 40-yard time, 126-inch broad jump. It's kind of eerie, the similarities, right, in terms of the athletic profile. And that's sort of contributes to why he's running back one in the class for me. And I know Kenneth Walker is probably a guy that some people out there might think is running back one. I think he was by far the best college running back, but I think Breece Hall, his traits, his physical abilities, what he brings to the table will translate better to the NFL. And we've seen that oftentimes over the years at running back and other positions across the field. But he has NFL bloodlines, running back bloodlines actually too, via his cousin and stepfather who both played in the NFL. His great vision, unlike someone who currently mans our running back group, is currently our RB1, even though I think he's gotten better in Antonio Gibson in that aspect. But I think Breece Hall has better vision. He has great speed, of course, 4.39, same as Jonathan Taylor. Can be aggressive when he needs to be. He can give you the short yardage plays. He can succeed on those plays, but he also can catch passes thrown out of the backfield very efficiently, has soft hands as well, which is great for a receiver coming on the backfield. Can do it all on the field, man. Like everything. He's the total package at running back. Again, he's my RB1 in this class. And NFL, for what it's worth, NFL Next Gen Stats rates Breece Hall as a number one overall player, I should say, in the draft, period. Like, I'm not talking about second round. I'm not talking about first round. I'm not talking about running back position. The number one overall prospect in the entire class. But he's a running back. It's not a premium position. Hence why he's likely going to fall to the second round, if not late first. I think the Bills would also be a very ideal place, man. Imagine Breece Hall on that offense, on that team that already retooled in the offseason. In my opinion, that would make them the legit, by far, number one Super Bowl contender in the NFL for the 2022 season. But going back to the Commanders, the athletic profile is there, Jonathan Taylor, but I've seen a lot more people compare one Breece Hall to a Matt Forte, right? That type of running back, and I think he would be excellent for us. And for all the people out there who say, a running back in the second round, what are we doing, Nazi? Like, we already have Antonio Gibson, we already have J.D. McKissick, who we just re-signed after that crazy sort of off-season situation. My thing is, as Rio Robinson, a friend of the channel, always says, do we know how long Antonio Gibson is going to be here in Washington for? He is a running back, right? It's not a given that he's going to sign his second contract here in DC, especially after he had a boatload of fumbles last year. A boatload of fumbles that were on our side of the field, which made them even more backbreaking. I mean, and in my opinion, in terms of building around Carson Wentz, if Carson Wentz is your guy, which is what Ron Rivera and the entire coaching staff makes it seem like, give him as many offensive weapons, period. And I'm not just talking about receivers. I'm not just talking about guys who have WR next to their name. I'm talking about tight ends. I'm talking about running backs as well. You can never have too many offensive weapons. And I think Breece Hall would just be another guy, especially if we add a receiver in the first round. Man, imagine our offense then. So Breece Hall is my number 3 guy. And I debated putting him number 2, but given the position, I'm going with Jaquan Brisker at number 2, safety out of Penn State. The team also brought him in for a top 30 visit. So again, a lot of these players, the team has already at least shown some interest in. Jaquan Brisker, 6'1", 206 pound, do-it-all safety, ran a 4.45 40-yard dash, is pretty fast for the position, especially for some of the other safeties that I've talked about previously on the channel, including my number one guy at pick 11, Kyle Hamilton, who ran a 4.59 at the Combine, I believe. Twitchy athlete, loose hips, light feet, can change directions really quickly on the field and processes plays very smoothly. that's sort of the difference, in my opinion, between him and Lewis Seen from Georgia, who was contemplating putting him here at number 2. But no, he has great coverage abilities, can cover tight ends, running backs, receivers, and was all on full display last year. He was a pivotal part on that Penn State defense, and he shows immense promise as well, stopping the run, pretty good tackler. Definitely needs to improve in terms of tracking the QB's eyes when it comes to the passing game and making the right angles when it comes to the running game as well. But no prospect is perfect, right? And we're talking about second round prospects, so they're especially not perfect. And I think if Jaquan Brisker, if he falls to Washington, number 47 overall in the second round, I think, especially if Washington decides to go offense the first round, I think he'd be a great fit here in DC and would probably make up for the eventual loss of Landon Collins post June 1. And it also fits the sort of Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio safety profile of being able to play both free safety and strong safety. I don't think he is just limited to being that box safety guy. He can play single high. He can do a lot of things on the field. One downside is he's already 23. But at the same time, if you have a great player like that, it really doesn't matter. I mean, Terry McLaurin was also 22, 23. I think he was 23, actually, when we drafted him, and turned 24, actually, in his rookie year. So if these guys are solid, they're solid. You got to draft him. My number one guy for the Washington Commanders at pick 47, realistic guy, is Leo Chenal, linebacker from Wisconsin. The man in the middle of our defense, man. I think he would be the missing player on this defense. Linebacker is obviously still a huge position of need, even with all the people out there who say, oh, the Washington Commanders only play 2 linebackers most of the time. Well, I think a large part of that has to do with the fact that we don't have a quality enough third linebacker to play 3 linebackers on the field consistently. Leo Chenal would change that. He's 6'3", 250 pounds, ran a 4.53, 40-yard time, 128-inch broad jump. Great athlete. But unlike Jamin Davis, who was an exceptional athlete, who the Commanders drafted, pick 19 last year in the first round, Chenal was a pivotal piece, leader on the nation's top collegiate defense at Wisconsin. He produced. He produced all over the field. He had 11 starts. He missed the first 2 games because of COVID-19, but he still accumulated 18.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks at the middle linebacker position, led the team with 115 tackles, forced 2 fumbles as well, was named second team All-American, was also named the Big Ten's linebacker of the year. So he was elite last year. He'd be a great fit here in Washington in the second round. He's very densely built, can evade anybody, right? Whether it be a running back who's trying to block his way to the quarterback, or an offensive lineman, tight end who's trying to block his way to a runner, a ball carrier. He's very good. He's a hard hitter as well. Great at blitzing, obviously, given the 8 sacks. Not the greatest in coverage, but honestly, we're looking for a Mike linebacker, right? And it's fine, right? It's fine if we have a Cole Holcomb and a Jamin Davis flanking a Leo Chenal. I think that would be a great linebacker group. Would definitely feel a need for sure. And I think he's not the most perfect of prospects, but again, it's the second round. You're not going to get the most perfect of prospects then. And I think he'd be a great player for us for years to come. And I think even Chris Sims spoke highly of him. Chris Sims, a great NFL analyst out there. And yeah, that's my top 5 guys, right? It's my top 5 guys. Again, going from number 5, John Mechie, 4, George Pickens, 3, Breece Hall, 2, Jaquan Brisker, 1, Leo Chenal. Again, these are realistic guys for the Washington Commanders in the second round. You can throw in a Lewis Seen. You can throw in a Daxton Hill if he falls. You can throw in a Kenneth Walker as well. You can throw in a lot of other guys. Potentially a Jahan Dotson. I mean, there are a lot of guys you can throw into potential fits in the second round, but this is my top 5 list. And again, I think the second round will be the most important selection for this team, given everything I mentioned at the beginning, how far the Commanders have to wait, how long they have to wait, I should say, for their 4th round pick, and also first round pick, easier sort of to select, especially if you have a top 11 pick. Second round, 47 pick. We traded with the Colts. That's why we have the 47th pick. We have their second round pick. They have ours. So it should be a fun one, guys. It should be a fun draft. I hope you guys enjoy your week. Whenever I upload this, hope you guys enjoy your day. And man, the NFL draft is upon us, guys. on Thursday. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe to the DMVSportsZone channel. We like to post fire content like this as much as possible. Also, go follow our Instagram page, all lowercase DMVSportsZone, our Twitter page at DMVSportsZone, and our TikTok at DMVSportsZone as well. And with that being said, hope you guys have a good one, and see you on the next vid. Peace.